I told myself I needed to do an update on the dust collection system, kind of let you all know how it has been functioning, this hand-built kludge that I created here, and the answer is pretty darn well. I had some leaks in my outside chip barrel, which resulted in more and more dust being put into the filters. But number one, it was really easy to clean the filters, so I didn't worry about it for a long time. And as soon as it warmed up, I was able to caulk those and get them sealed. I told myself I was going to clean the place before I updated it, but you know what? Screw it. You guys with your clean shops, I envy you. For what time the son and I put out here, we output a tremendous amount of stuff. I'm a cluttered person with a cluttered brain, I guess, and shop itself is once again kind of cluttered. Here's the main trunk line. The most powerful port in the whole system is that one right there, which isn't really particularly necessary because it's just a joiner. This port here has never really been used. I use it occasionally to suck off the saw here. I've never bothered to put my collection on there. The port does a fine job keeping the bandsaw dust free, not that it really needs it. Underneath, table saw's port does okay. As you can see, it does spit out some dust out the front of the casing and then out here in the back, and it forms kind of like a pyramid or cone shape, but it does a fine job. The dust fines do not really escape the saw, and that's all we're really worried about because of this little monster. And speaking of this little monster, if I'm going to plug it, I'm going to plug it right down at that 90-degree elbow, and it does it often, to be quite honest with you. So I'm about to dismantle the whole system down in that lower corner and find out what's in there. Something has to be in there. And if I had to make a guess, I bet it's related to my helper putting stuff down there. This is an incredibly useful line. What I wish is that this line over here was actually tapped in right over there. In fact, I've considered more than once tapping it in and coming off of that one disused one, or coming up with a hose extension for that disused one, because that has quite a bit more power. This is the farthest most point here. This line is the one that services the big radial arm drill press and the router table if I ever use it. But it spends most of its time with these two tools, the Makita 12-inch planer and my somewhat hand-built Craftsman big sander there. Those are the two that it spends most of its time connected to. Most of the time, if I'm honest, it's connected to this monster, which is the same monster that plugs it, especially when we're planing maple, like we're trying to plane right now. It's dark down here, and I don't know how well this is going to show up, but this is the line that plugs right here. It's that elbow. And so, luckily I have these slip joint connectors, so I'm going to pull that one, drop this section of pipe here, and then I hope to be able to peek inside with a flashlight. What I expect to see is some fine offcut sticks that have gotten down in there. Otherwise, there's no real reason or explanation for why it plugs at that joint constantly. But it does plug at that joint right there. And by constantly, I mean 3 times. But I've only used the planer like 7 times. So we're almost at 50% plug rate. And it's always right there. And as soon as I pull it loose, I actually keep a stick down here for poking it. As soon as I pull it loose, you can hear it shoot across the main line. And then it goes out to the blower. So I'm going to see if I can get in there and find out what's going on. Alright, I pulled it apart. No sticks. What it had, I think, was a screw in exactly the wrong spot. And that was allowing stuff to start hanging up, and then it would then gather other stuff. So what I've done is I've transferred the screw that holds it together, and it's mostly glued together at this point anyways. For instance, it didn't actually come loose when I did all this. I transferred that screw from the bottom to the top, so as things come sweeping through, with luck, it won't catch anymore. This is how I hold my barrel together. Seems to work just great. Still rocking the aluminum tube because it's all I have at the moment. My big air leak was this joint here, so that's all been silicone on the inside. But yeah, that seems to work fine. It needs a better seal up in here, but we'll get to that. You can see the dust coming out of the pressure side and building up when it's damp up there. There's clearly a joint that I didn't caulk. I'll have to get to that later. But the motor seems to be staying dry. The super deputy thing, no dents, no dings in it. I wouldn't expect there to be any. Everything else is hanging on just fine, and yeah, that elbow's a touch inefficient, but what are you gonna do? It's not inside my shop, and the noise is out here, which isn't very loud, so the neighbors are fine, but got me some room. I think it works great. I would do it again in a heartbeat. I just would rework some of those lines. I like that big central flexible line. I just would put it in a different spot, and I'd store all my planers on the other side of the shop, and maybe I'll get around to change it, but right now it's fine. I better go find out what my munchkin wants. Thanks for watching.